Welcome to another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. This is a podcast dedicated to educating and empowering women from preconception, pregnancy, birth, and through early motherhood on wellness lifestyle. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton, and I'm a maternity pediatric chiropractor and mother who has hand-selected experts in natural holistic healthcare specialties to shine light on options and choices during this exciting phase of a woman's life. And this episode is sponsored by Informed Pregnancy Plus, which is a fantastic streaming platform for pregnancy and parenting. You can experience it for free at informedpregnancy.tv. Today's episode focuses on developing a new lifestyle rhythm that supports you as a mama. And my guest today is Hally Brooke. Hally Brooke is the founder and CEO of Nourished Coaching. She's a certified functional medicine nutrition counselor, nationally board certified health and wellness coach, Fox 21 fitness and nutrition expert, and a fierce industry advocate. From her own personal experience overcoming serious GI issues, including IBS and SIBO, her education and training, and her work with clients, she's built a thriving nationwide functional medicine health coaching practice that works with clients in all the key areas of wellness, including movement, nutrition, mindset, resilience, relationships, and self-care. Her mission at Nourished Coaching is to make the life-changing power of health coaching accessible to every single person in the U.S. To start, Hally and her company move this mission forward through direct-to-client coaching and innovative strategic partnerships with medical practitioners. She's become an international speaker, top-level medical practice consultant, and built a world-class health coaching agency. But what inspires her to do this work every day is getting to see her clients move from illness to health, and then from health to wellness, thriving in their lives, finding their own internal motivation to live nourished. You can find her on the web at livenourishedcoaching.com or on all the socials at Nourished Coaching. Hi, Hally. Welcome to the show. I'm very excited to have you on today.
It's wonderful to be here, Laura. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So today we're going to focus on a topic that's really near and dear to my heart, and it's mama's self-care in the form of really adapting to a new lifestyle rhythm once a woman becomes a mother. And that even is a new lifestyle, I believe, is required for every baby that comes along the way. It's not just the first one. Yep. So let's talk a little bit about what that looks like as far as nutrition, movement, mind, spirit, relationships, especially intimate relationships. So tell me a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, what resetting those rhythms look like?
Yes.
Absolutely. So, you just went from being an adult, especially if this is your first kid, being an adult and really kind of being able to do what you need when you need to do it, to now you have a tiny human who really kind of throws a wrench in your ability to do what you need what you want when you want to do it. And so what we work with our clients is we work on separating needs and wants. Those are two different things. You need to eat. You need to move your body. You need to have healthy adult relationships. Those are actually needs. Those are not just wants. And I think a lot of times new moms think that those are wants. Like, oh man, I'd really love to make a healthy dinner, but I don't have time. Nope, that's actually not an option to not make a healthy dinner. That is a need, and it's a baseline need for you and for your body. And so separating those needs and wants. A want would be, I want to binge Netflix and I want to stay up late and I want to sleep through the night. Those aren't going to happen with a new baby. But separating those needs and wants and getting really clear on what makes you a whole healthy human, because you are going to be the best mom and the best parent if you are a whole healthy human. And so, it's cheesy and it's cliche, but the put your own oxygen mask on first. To make that really real, there are times when you probably need to make yourself a snack before you feed your kid. You're going to need to take a walk and let someone else watch your kid for 10 minutes or strap them to you and take a walk, because your needs need to come first. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to be a good mom, a good parent to that kid.
Wow, really well said. I mean, that is what mama self-care is. Every single episode I do on Well Adjusted Mama is focusing on mama self-care. And there's so many different aspects of what that looks like. And it, can be something so simple, like you mentioned, as eating a healthy, nutritious snack. It doesn't even, you don't have to make a 5-course meal here, right? Like we're talking
Right.
about cutting up some veggies, hummus or some piece of fruit, or, I mean, right? Like it's quick, it's easy, it's sustaining, it's whole, and it's required for your energy. That's required for taking care of this baby. And also, if you're nursing, right? All the fuel that's required to make breast milk as well. So I do think that a lot of times women do think that's a want if they have a newborn, right? Um, so that also goes back to a village. Like there are times where a mom just needs a break, because even wearing a baby is an extra weight, right? And like
Yep.
maybe you just need a break. And so, ideally it's having that support system in place, right? Where there's someone that can hold your baby or watch your baby so you can take a nap and not have to wake up for a baby, right? Or like
Yep.
you said, go for a walk in nature by yourself. Like some of that time, like we also as a mom really need time to yourself, right? You just need, because it feels like a parasite sometimes, like, it's just baby, I get it. So, but that's so important. So I think when moms are really feeling depleted, it's because these needs are not getting met.
Correct. Yep. Correct. And if you're depleted, you are going to give depleted energy to your kid. So, it's not a want, it's a need.
Right. So when you're working with a coaching client, how do you help them kind of get through the needs versus the wants and come up with this lifestyle that is going to make sure their needs are getting met?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So I'll give you an example. So we have a mom who's a client of ours who recently had a baby. He's 3 months old. He's super cute. And kind of all of the other moms who are in that same stage of life that are around her have chosen, and this isn't not necessarily wrong, but it wasn't right for her. They've chosen to some degree treat being a new mom like an illness. They're not leaving the house. They're not doing anything. They aren't, doing the things that they used to do. Not necessarily a wrong thing, but for this mom, it didn't work. And so she was losing her mind. She was like, I don't have friends to hang out with. Everyone kind of in my sphere network has had a kid and they just stay in. Like they just stay in, they don't do anything. And we said, okay, what are the things that you want to do? What are the things that bring you life? What are the things that you enjoy? And she goes, well, she gets really hangry. She deals with low blood sugar. So she's like, if I don't eat, I am not a nice person. She loves fly fishing and being outside and doing these fun things. She loves camping. She and her husband are big campers. And so we said, okay, what would it take for you to be able to go fly fishing? And she goes, well, I would either have to like have him on me or I would have to have a babysitter. And I said, okay, which of those options feel better to you? And she goes, honestly, just strapping him to me sounds great. I said, okay, cool. So she got the Moby and she strapped him to him and she went out fly fishing and they've now been fly fishing, multiple times a week since then. And
Wow.
she's so much happier. And these friends that are kind of around her are going like, how do you do that? What if he needs to nap? She's like, then he just naps. Like he just naps on me, or I, like strap him in his car seat and leave him on the riverbank. And I just stand right there, like with him, next to him. We're good, but we're doing these things. She did a ton of research on, camping baby things. So they have like a camping bassinet that works really well. And they have some kind of like snuggly, warmer things that work better than a sleeping bag. And so they have a 3-month-old and they're fly fishing and camping and doing all these things. And she is hiring a babysitter once a week so that she can just go sit at a coffee shop for a couple hours. And then she's also hiring a mama's helper once a week so that she can prep some healthy meals so that she has good things. And that's how we do it. We look at, what do you want to do? What are your needs and how do we make that happen?
Yeah. And it's interesting because ideally the village would be like the second parent, right? Helping out, and maybe grandparents or, siblings, other adults in that live nearby that could pop over and play with the baby for a couple hours. Right. But sometimes I find, at least in the United States, especially, that that's not always an option.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you have to pay money. I know that was my position, where I had to hire, postpartum doula and nanny and help with childcare, so that I could get my needs met, because I didn't have extended family that was able to step in and provide that.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
And the value is highly there. Like, every penny spent has been, worth it for me to be able to like have life, enjoy my life. And I think what I'm hearing from you is there's a lot of joy that comes from having a baby, but that cannot be your entire world. I don't really think that's honestly healthy for anyone if that's their entire world.
Right.
You need some girlfriend time, like, go out for dinner with your girlfriends and chat and do have the gossip, catch up, whatever.
Yes.
And you don't want to bring your baby to that. Honestly, it's just
No.
nice to have that. They can stay at home and be comfortable, in their crib or playing or whatever. And so there is a time that you need somebody to watch that child. That's not you. Right. And there's also times it's beautiful to be able to like have your child be part of your lifestyle as well, like the mom you shared. So I think there's a good balance between those. And, asking for help is also important. Like, if there is anyone that is able to come and, like, I don't know, like an aunt who's retired or somebody, right? Somebody who's like, oh, I'd love to help out. So sometimes what I find is either the family's not available, or it's hard for that mom to ask for help, right? Have you encountered that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. There are lots of parents that we work with who we work with a lot of military people. So that's kind of what our population here is in Colorado Springs. And a lot of those people, their family is in a different state.
Right.
And so that's a big one. And so a huge piece of that is sort of like what you said, even if it's not a family member, there are people who are incredibly good at caring for children, and you can bring those in. A doula, a nanny, your neighbor. So that's a huge piece, is if you don't have those family members, which is, wonderful and ideal. And that's what we want, but you can still get help even without that. And then the asking for help piece, I think that is such a huge thing. We are not designed to live life alone at all. Like, we are not built for that. We are not built to do life in a silo. And that goes so much further than just raising kids, right? That goes to our relationships and our friendships and how we function as a community and a society. But I think, social media and modern society and the speed at which we do life has really kind of put us in these silos where asking for help can feel really hard. It can feel like you're a burden.
Mm-hmm.
It can feel like, you're too much. And the reality is, if you're going to be too much for someone, you're going to be too much for someone, whether they ask for help or not. If you ask the right person, you are not too much for them. And so starting to develop a community around you of people who are safe, of people who really do love and care about you and want to help you, and of people who have good, healthy boundaries for themselves, so that you can ask them for help. And if it's not a fit for them, they'll say no. That's a really helpful thing, to know that the people around you are healthy as well.
Yes. And I can actually speak from personal experience, where my son, who's now almost 6, his only surviving grandparent is 15 minutes from our house. And I would love certainly more childcare, date nights, help in that area. And grandpa's not comfortable doing that. He loves to come over and visit, if somebody else, nanny or another parent's around the house, and he's popping in, he's playing, he's being a grandpa, but it's not like a childcare role. So I think also like the expectations are like, you can't force people to do something that they're not comfortable doing, and they're going to show up in their role in your child's life at whatever works for them. You know,
Correct.
providing for college savings, for example, is really helpful, but it's not a date night babysitter, right? So I think that's the other thing, is having like having realistic expectations of who in your community and village is, what roles are they all serving, and that includes the other parent, right? So do you want to talk a little bit about that and what that looks like? If we have two parents living in the house, there could be two really different roles there with childcare and caring for the family.
Yeah, absolutely. We work with a lot of couples in that realm. And I feel like we see kind of two different things. We see the side of the spectrum where both parents are really involved and really want to help. And then we see the other side of the spectrum where one parent is maybe out of the house, working out of the house and exhausted when they get home, and maybe kind of uninterested in being part of that. And so those are the two spectrums, and the way that we handle that and the way that we deal with that are very different. With the two parents who are involved, learning to have communication and learning to say like, hey, I need a break. Can you please give me 2 hours to XYZ? Go take a nap, make food, go grocery shopping, take a walk, go hang out with a girlfriend. Making sure that you're asking for help and that you're communicating what you need and want on both sides, super helpful. On the flip side, where we have a parent who's maybe less involved or, too tired to be involved, which happens, going back to that, we need some outside care. We need to figure out in the budget how we have support around us. We need to get involved in a MOPS group at church. Even if you don't go to church, getting involved in a MOPS group is a great way to go have childcare for 2 hours and have adult conversation. Finding a gym. There's a couple gyms around us, including the YMCA, that you can go there and you can have 2 hours of childcare included with your membership. And you can do whatever you want. As long as you're in the gym, you can read a book, you can go sit in the sauna, you can do a workout, you can plan your meals, you can talk to a friend. Like, those kind of things, and fitting those pieces in is really important.
Right. So it's, there's like a budget or cost friendly ways to get the support and childcare you need, as opposed to just having to always like pay for a full-time nanny or, a more, or even a daycare, for example. It's a more expensive option. And then what about if both parents are working?
Yeah.
Like a new mom, 3 months postpartum, back to work, other parent works. Do you have most moms as well? That's for me, as also a working mom, that was a major lifestyle rhythm change of being an entrepreneur to being an entrepreneurial mom.
Yeah, for sure. It's a big deal. I think the biggest thing that we work with moms on that is, you're allowed to be a human too. You're allowed to have a life. So often we see moms in those situations, that mom guilt is a very real thing.
Yes.
And what that mom guilt tells us is, I'm not being a good mom because I'm not with my child right now. But think about the things that you are teaching that child. You are teaching that child that a woman can be capable. You are teaching a child that a woman can hold down a career. You are teaching that child that you are more than just, a milk source and a source of snacks and a source of food. You are teaching that child leadership. And so that's a huge piece, to shift your mindset around what you are teaching that child. And it's okay if they're with someone else. And then to really find someone that you love and trust. We have a client who's a photographer, an incredible photographer, very good at what she does. She has a nanny twice a week. And one of the things she said is, she was super nervous about hiring that nanny because she was going to be gone for 4 hours at a time and wasn't sure if that was going to work. But one of the things she loves is that nanny can pull things out of her son that she can't, because she's a different person in a different relationship. And so she comes home and there's these chalk drawings all over the sidewalk of like things that he loves, because this nanny is a really good artist. And so they have this other relationship, and having healthy relationships with other adults who aren't your parents is an incredibly powerful thing for a kid. I mean, we have ample research on, a kid needs more positive adult relationships in their life than just their parents. And so you're a mom and you're going back to work full time, find a nanny who you love and trust and know that nanny or that person or that caretaker is giving your child something that you will never be able to give them, because you're a different person, and having a different person in that child's life is really helpful.
That is really good advice. And I think really helpful for any working mom listening, because working mom guilt is so real. I remember when I went back to work, my son was only 5 weeks old. It was just a couple days a week, but I would cry the entire time I was driving to my office just for those few hours. Cause it was so, intense to be like, oh my God, I'm leaving my child,
Sure.
But I will say, I've gone through a lot of nannies in my 6 years of hiring nannies, and the ones that have been what you're speaking to were all mothers themselves, and their children were now adults. One of them, believe it or not, our first nanny was a great grandmother. Her great grandchild was the same age as my son. She started very young. But the whole point of my story is that like these women have already raised children who are now adults and potentially have reproduce themselves. And there is so much wisdom and knowledge that comes with that population. So if that was it's a very different experience than, let's say, a college student. I mean, there's a lot of value with that too, but when you're looking at somebody who's been there, done that, and actually has the, experience, the life experience, it's so valuable.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what other types of things can a new mom look to do to kind of, still because there's going to be shifts. I mean, you're not going to maintain the exact same lifestyle that you had pre-mom. Like it's just not happening. So how does a woman kind of adapt to these changes in a graceful way that feels really rich and nourishing for her?
Yeah. So, we spend a lot of time working on nutrition.
Yes.
And
let's talk about that.
Yeah, that's a huge piece. So that's kind of where our main wheelhouse is. And the logic behind that, especially as a new mom, is if you put junk in the car, you're going to get junk results. Being a new mom is really hard. And so not only do you need to put good fuel in your car, so to speak, in your body, but you probably need to be using high octane for a while, because the demands on you physically, mentally, emotionally, especially if you're nursing, now we've doubled that. Your body is recovering from pregnancy.
And birth.
Yeah. Couple big things. You need to treat yourself like a marathon runner, and you need to give yourself, Olympic quote unquote level food. And so focusing on food that is nutrient dense, focusing on food that is high in fat and high in omegas. A baby's brain is 100% fat when they're born, and that baby is going to get that fat from somewhere. And if you're not eating it, it's going to pull it from your own brain. So the whole mom brain fog thing, we often say that that's very optional. If you're dealing with kind of mom brain fog, like you can't quite finish a thought or you're losing your train of thought, that tells me that you don't have enough omegas to wrap those myelin sheaths in your brain so that your brain functions optimally. And so that tells me that we need to focus on nutrition in that category.
And that would also be a third trimester mom too. I mean, we certainly hear about pregnancy brain too. I find typically towards the end of the pregnancy, and that would be also the same thing you're mentioning. The fetus is going to take whatever it needs from mom's body to build its own body, at the sacrifice of mom, right? So that's where, these nutrient-rich foods are so important. This episode is brought to you by Informed Pregnancy Plus, the ultimate streaming platform for expectant and new parents. Dive into a rich collection of insightful videos from iconic films from Ricky Lake's The Business of Being Born to The Empowering Orgasmic Birth and many others, including my documentary. Explore the mind-body section with meditation, yoga, and fitness classes, including Baby by Simone and Belly Dance for Birth, all with your subscription. Delve into workshops, book insights, and TV-style series covering everything from fertility to breastfeeding. It's a must-have for moms-to-be and birthing professionals. And with apps available for Apple, Android, and Roku, streaming is a breeze. The best part? Try Informed Pregnancy Plus for free. Visit informedpregnancy.tv and start today. So do you want to talk a little bit about the best sources of omega-3s for a pregnant or new mom? Because there's a lot of fear and hype out there about like the tuna, the tunas and fishes out there that can have mercury and other toxins in them, but also might be a great source of omega-3.
Yeah, tuna is not going to be a good source of omega-3.
Okay.
One, it's not a good source of omega-3. Two, it is going to be higher in those mercuries and heavy metals. Getting good, high quality, wild caught salmon is a great way. So if you can get into your diet a good piece of wild caught salmon, an avocado or two, some walnuts, a good amount of olive oil, drown your salad, you're going to be in good shape. Taking a high quality omega-3 fish oil or omega-3 supplement is another supplement that, as always, run it by your doctor, but that's a fairly safe one to take pre-pregnancy, during pregnancy, and post-pregnancy. We now have multiple studies that show that women who take omega-3s or double their omega-3s during and after pregnancy have 1/10 the rate of postpartum depression than women who don't take omega-3s during pregnancy and after pregnancy. And so doing it both from a diet and a supplementation standpoint is really good.
Yeah. And also beyond the brain function, that like you mentioned, the myelin sheath, the rest of the nervous system would benefit from those healthy fats. And the standard American diet is really high in the other omegas, right, that are creating some inflammation. So there's that imbalance. What if a mom do you have like moms that are vegan or vegetarian that, are wanting to have these nutrients, but don't eat fish, for example?
Yeah, great question. Yes, we do, for sure. The first thing that I would say is I wouldn't necessarily recommend that.
During pregnancy and postpartum.
Yep, during pregnancy and postpartum, being vegan or vegetarian, you're going to be missing stuff that you need. There's sort of no way around that. Even having a perfectly well-rounded vegan or vegetarian diet, you're still going to be missing things that you just cannot get unless you are eating good, high quality, grass-fed, grass-finished meats and eggs. So that's the first thing is, if you're vegan and vegetarian, maybe consider doing something differently during pregnancy and postpartum. If you are going to be vegan or vegetarian, I would encourage you to have an avocado a day, not a half an avocado a day, but a whole avocado a day. You need to focus really hard on getting more protein than you think you need. The bare minimum for a mom kind of postpartum would be the number. So weigh yourself. If you have good fancy scale, that's great. Your body's lean body mass. So say you weigh 100 pounds and 75% of that is lean body mass. You need that many grams in protein at a bare minimum. And then you need about half of that in fat. And so it's easier to get that from an animal diet, but you don't have to.
Wow. And there's not a lot of new moms that are 100 pounds after giving birth. So let's say
100 to make the math easy.
Yeah, I was just saying, let's say it's 150. So 150 essentially, and you're saying 75% of that is lean. So
an average person. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So, I mean, we're talking over 100 grams of protein a day.
Yep. Which is doable with a plant-based diet. It is very challenging. It's challenging with a animal diet as well, but it's going to be easier.
Is this like more of a keto type of diet or no?
Nope.
Okay.
No, your breast milk is primarily fat, nutrients, and protein. And so if you're eating a bunch of carbohydrates, you don't have enough of what you need to make that breast milk. And so then we start to see women's bodies start to metabolize muscle in order to get that protein into your breast milk. And so if you're not eating it, if you're not putting it in the system, just like we talked about, your body is going to get it from somewhere, which means it's going to start breaking down things that you don't want it to break down, which is going to make that recovery more challenging. It's going to make postpartum weight loss more challenging. It's going to make everything more challenging. And it's going to mean that your baby isn't getting 100% of what they need.
Right. I mean, I could even see possibly lower milk supply, right? Just because you don't have the building blocks to manufacture it. Can you talk about how that type of like the high quality protein and high quality fat diet also helps with the metabolism and postpartum healing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, protein and fat are really our body's two main building blocks. Carbohydrates play a very important role as well. Your body needs carbohydrates to have your brain function properly. It needs carbohydrates to be able to spark energy, but it's protein and fat that your body prefers to burn in a long-term setting. So if you think about if you're a runner, obviously we're going to get back to moms in a second, but if you're a runner, you start off running and usually about 5 to 10 minutes in, you hit what we call that wall where you just go, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I can keep going. And then you get through that wall and you can run for a marathon and feel for the most part pretty great. That wall is your body switching over from burning carbohydrates to burning fat. And that's what is happening in a mom's body throughout postpartum and nursing. Your body is using so much energy that you're kind of in that state at all times. And so, yes, carbohydrates are important for that quick energy, but it's the fat and the protein that your body really needs in order to sustain your energy and sustain your body and make sure that you're increasing muscle mass. If you're not getting protein, you're decreasing muscle mass, which means it's going to be harder to lose weight. Your metabolism is going to slow down, all of those pieces.
Right. And then also, like, when I'm thinking about the actual physical healing and recovery of the tissue after giving birth, that's where the amino acids and the protein really come into play, right? To help with that tissue and cellular regeneration.
Exactly.
So that goes back to that protein diet. Can you talk a little bit about like healthy, you mentioned the healthy fats. Can you talk, and you mentioned grass-fed protein, but can you go in a little bit more detail about really what healthy protein looks like? I think that's something that not everyone understands, that all meat's not created equal.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about meat specifically?
Meat, fish, or maybe all the proteins, honestly. I personally don't eat meat. I eat fish, but
Okay.
women listening might want to know about all the different types of choices and the quality. Like, we're talking about quality sources of whole food here.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're totally right. All meat is not created equally. If you look at a cow that has been fed, so let's start with beef because it's usually the most obvious. If you look at a cow that has been fed grain versus a cow that has been fed, grass and is free range, the molecular structure of the protein in that meat is different. In the grain-fed cow, you're going to be really high in omega-6s, which are pro-inflammatory. In grass-fed, grass-finished beef, you're going to see more omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory. So we see all of these research studies talking about how, eating meat is inflammatory and it causes all these issues. Those have all been done on conventionally raised meat versus pasture raised meat. Pasture raised meat pass on B12. We used to think that B12 was something that only vegans and vegetarians were deficient in. Turns out that's not true. B12 actually comes from bacteria in our soil. And so whereas vegans and vegetarians wash all of that off of their vegetables, cows eat the grass without washing it, and then they pass that on to us. That's something that you're not going to get from conventionally raised meat. So you can be eating meat and still be deficient in B12 if you're not eating pasture raised meat. Very similar with salmon. Farm raised salmon are going to be higher in toxins. They're going to be higher in heavy metals. This sounds super gross, but they swim around in these nasty tanks and they're like just continually sort of eating each other's poop. So high in toxins, high in inflammatory chemicals. And we actually see significantly lower levels of omega-3s in farm raised fish than in wild caught fish.
And I find sometimes it's hard to even find the wild salmon. Like, certain seasons, at least when I'm in the East Coast, it's like I go to Whole Foods and they only have the farm raised. And, it's frustrating because I want the wild. It's like, if I have the choice between, if I don't have wild and there's farm raised salmon or, like, let's say a whitefish, it sounds like the whitefish would be a better option from a health perspective.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Anything that is wild caught or pasture raised is going to be nutrient dense, be lower in toxins, and be good for your body. Farm raised, conventionally raised, just with our current farming practices in the United States, I would rather you eat a vegetable than eat
right. Right. And it's so confusing because to your point, like you hear this research about, red meat is, arachidonic acid, it's inflammatory, yada, yada. And you just really have to know that there's high quality options. They do cost more typically. How can somebody find like these good sources? Like I have a Whole Foods a couple miles from my house, so I'm very lucky to have that access there. But if you don't, like if you have, access to some local farmers, you want to get, local produce, things that are grown locally in season, like I guess farmers markets is another great option. Like how do people find these, whole foods that are going to give them the nutrients they need?
Yeah, it's such a good question. You said my number one choice, which is go to a farmer's market and ask the growers, do you grow things organically? A lot of farmers at farmers markets aren't organic certified because it's so expensive, but they do grow organically. And so developing those relationships and then asking them, hey, do you have any recommendations on where to get meat? Developing those during the summer so that you can continue them in the winter is a great option. Doing something like Misfits Market is one that I really like. All whole food, organic, non-GMO food. It just looks weird. So grocery stores didn't take them. That's a great option. Looking for, we have in our city, we have Wild Pastures, and then we also have Rancho Largo, which are both grass-fed, grass-finished local ranches here that ship meat all over the country. And so we use Rancho Largo. If you go to, rancholargo.com, you can get grass-fed, grass-finished beef shipped to your door. And if you use Wild Pastures, they also have fish, and you can order fish through them as well. And they partner with multiple different farms and ranches all over the country to make sure that those farms and ranches are getting exposure and that people have access. So Googling something like that in your local area, or using one of these nationwide companies now that we have door-to-door shipping all over the states, that's a great option.
Right. Yeah. I mean, especially for something like the meat that can be, I guess, it shows up frozen. So it's not the same as like produce, right? Where produce you don't necessarily want. Ideally, you want to get that like local if possible, right? And avoid the shipping. So, and then a lot of it too, I think what I remembered as being, especially a brand new mom, is that meal prep. Like I understood the value of eating healthy, nutritious foods, but having the time or energy to make it was hard. Do you have any tips for new moms in how to create these healthy meals for themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, cook like you're feeding a small army. If you're used to cooking for just you and your partner, start cooking like you're cooking for 4 or 5 adults. So take your recipe and double it or triple it so that you make one meal and then you have 4 lunches and 4 dinners prepackaged, ready to go in your fridge. You can even freeze them if you want to be able to rotate through them. Looking into something like an organic, non-GMO food box. There's Purple Carrot. There's, Green Chef. There's a bunch out there.
Sunbasket I use. I love it.
Yeah, Sunbasket that come with kind of like quick, sort of already prepped. It's going to take you 20 minutes instead of an hour to make those meals. Those are really good ones.
And they're good too when you're tired and you don't even want to think like, what am I going to make? It just tells you. It's like, here's the ingredients. Here's the recipe. Make it.
Yep, exactly.
Sometimes you don't want to even have to come up like, what am I going to make? Like you just want it like just tell me what to do.
Yep, exactly. And then if you do live in a city like Whole Foods, Whole Foods, I love Chipotle because it's real ingredients. Finding those kind of quote fast food options that are nourishing and building those into your weekly routine. So maybe you swing by Whole Foods on the way home and grab a full chicken and some vegetables from their hot bar, and dinner's ready. It's organic, it's homemade, it's ready to go. Things like Chipotle, or we have something called garbanzo here, which is a Mediterranean version of that again it's fast food, but it's not fast food. It's real ingredients, real food, organic, prepped with care. Building those into your routines and knowing what your fast go-tos can be is helpful too.
Yeah, that's really a good point. And There's even, I think the convenience of having, groceries delivered as well is awesome. You mentioned the meat deliveries, but even just your weekly groceries, right? Most places now you can get the food delivered to your house. So just one less step of having to like go into a grocery store with a baby and go grocery shopping. Sometimes that's not how you want to spend your time out of the house necessarily, right? All right. What about, what I was hearing about that first mama you were sharing was the connection with other new moms. So if you have, what I also see in my practice is sometimes a woman is the first in her friends to become a mother. So her friends are still going out, partying, doing their single life thing, or maybe newly married, but not yet pregnant thing. And they're having a lot of fun. And it can feel like you really you can't obviously participate at the same level after you have a baby and they're brand new. So there's sometimes a need to meet new women that are at that same life stage.
Yeah.
So things like moms groups. Do you have any other ways that you recommend to help with those connections that I think can be also very nourishing for a new mom?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, moms groups are a great one. We have a handful of clients who aren't Christians, but we've encouraged them to go to a MOPS group at a church because it's, moms of infants and toddlers. They are all people in the same life stage that you are, navigating the same thing. And you get free childcare, which is awesome. So moms groups is great. Same thing, like I mentioned before, going to the gym and meeting the other moms in the pickup line who are dropping their kids off and spending time at the gym is a really good one. If you have a faith community, that's a great place to meet people and to get support, not only for, other moms kind of in your life stage, but grandparents who would love to come hang out with your kid for a week because their kids are grown and they don't have grandkids yet, or their grandkids are on a different part of the country. Those kind of communities are great if you're not faith-based. And so going to a church or a MOPS group doesn't feel good for you. Getting out and going to a park and sitting by a park where there are other kids playing, there is very likely a mom who has a new kid, a new baby there, who also has a kid playing in the park, who would be a great connection for you for play dates and for support. But really, like, getting out of your house is huge.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times new moms can get super trapped in their house and kind of feel like they're losing their minds. And that's a really hard place to be.
Yeah, there's the mental health component to that. And that also, I think, would really impact postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety, because it can just feel like Groundhog Day and just, it's like, why take a shower? Why get out of my sweats? Like, it's just like, there's just and you really, you kind of lose that sense of self-worth almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so that's really important, I think, for the self-love, care, self-esteem, all the things, to have a woman who is like, oh, I can take a shower and I can have a couple minutes to put some body oil on, like these little things, right? That can make you feel like a human instead of just a feeding machine that is up every few hours, to take care of this newborn and young child. So these are important. I loved your idea of like the adoptive grandparent. There are so many really loving adults in communities that would be love to cherish your child and love on them. And especially if you don't have family in the area, this is a great way to get, your family essentially set up.
I think there's actually even a website called Adopt a Grandparent. Like, I think that's a thing, adoptagrandparent.com. I'll have to look at that, but
why not? I mean, I was thinking about when I was growing up as a child, I didn't necessarily live near my grandparents, and they didn't have Adopt a Grandparent website back then, but I remember there was the farmers across the way, and, I wasn't over at their house every week, but we'd go over and hang out on the farm, and they were grandparent age. And then also in church, there were certainly grandparent age adults there that were just loved seeing, young children And, it was, I think, a win-win. It was uplifting for their spirit. It was uplifting for a young child to have that loving attention paid to them. So I think, and I really also appreciated your statement about children connecting with other adults, having these healthy adult connections outside of parents. And if it's not a paid like nanny, for example, it could be, a family member, but could also be somebody like, a grandparent, adopt a grandparent, because there's a lot of wisdom that can be shared and communicated at a level that parents just don't have that connection.
Yep, exactly.
Any tips for these new mamas in maintaining a healthy, intimate relationship? Because there's a lot of massive change that's going on, and it's stressful, and it can be very stressful on a couple.
Yep, absolutely. I think the first thing would be, not until you're ready, like immediately postpartum, that maybe doesn't feel good. I think the other piece that's really important is there's a lot that goes into intimacy besides just sex. Right?
Yes.
There is emotional intimacy. There is spiritual intimacy. There is, intellectual intimacy. And so working on cultivating those three things almost more than you cultivate kind of your physical intimacy life, those three things will feed into that. And so developing a routine around, okay, we put the baby down and then we spend 30 minutes, talking about our day. We spend 15 minutes reading a book together. That's a great one, because talking about your day can be like, well, how's your day? Great. I finished my accounting thing. And how's yours? Well, I fed the baby a lot. Like there's not a lot of intimacy in that.
No.
But yeah. So finding a book that you can read together, finding like Danny Silk, Keep Your Love On is one that I love. Finding something that you can learn together, like, if neither of you know how to play chess, learn how to play chess together, learn how to play cribbage together, learn how to do something together that you can do in your home that doesn't require you to go on these big date nights. Create a space for yourself. So, if you live in a home, create a patio space that's a very adult space that maybe you don't have the baby in or you don't have the toddler in very often. And so it doesn't have to be childproofed, and you're able to have, a space that's set aside for you and your partner, and focusing on cultivating those other elements of intimacy will help you, one, feel like an adult, and two, help feed into physical intimacy if that's what you want.
Oh yeah. And that definitely, I think, especially as women, we need that emotional intimacy first before we have any interest in the physical. So that makes a lot of sense. So we're going to wrap up with this interview. This has been a lot of fun. Do you have any last thoughts you want to share with the audience?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think the main one is being a new mom is a season. It can be hard and it can feel like it's forever and it's never going to end, but it will. It will end and you will be in a very different place than you were before. And so being able to hold on to that perspective in the in and outs and in the day to day and the up and down, I think can be really helpful. And then the last thing that I would leave you with that I pull out of kind of 12-step recovery is one day at a time. You absolutely cannot be the mom of a newborn infant forever. First of all, they're going to grow up. Second of all, you would lose your mind. But just for today, you can. It might feel really hard to take care of yourself every single day, but just for today, you can take care of yourself. Just for today, you can put the baby in the bouncy seat and make yourself a snack, and it's going to be okay. So it's not forever. It's a season. And just for today, you can do it.
Yes. Well said. Well, Hally, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Laura. It's been an honor.
I really appreciated Hally coming on the show today to talk about how life is transformed after giving birth and having a baby to care for, and how it's really important as women that we honor that this is a transitional period. It's a major life change, and life will look and act differently than it was before pregnancy and even before giving birth. And so really getting clear about what activities you want to do to support you in motherhood and recovering from pregnancy and birth, and fueling and filling your soul with regeneration and healing, as opposed to deprivation and exhaustion, and what that looks like. And it will look differently than it did at a different stage of your life. So I think this is really great wisdom as we all go through different stages in our life, that we can reevaluate what's working for us, what's no longer working, and modify as needed. Once again, if you want to find out more information about Hally, and if you'd like to coach with her personally, you can find her at livenourished.coaching.com, or on all the socials at Live Nourished Coaching or Hally Brooke.